business. No, seriously. I mean, if you knew for a fact that you would get a check every single month, but didn't have to go to work ever again, would you be interested in making that happen? Somebody say, I would. Great. Let me ask you another question. How many of you are considering transitioning or retiring from your business within the next 5 years? Raise your hand if that's you. Great. Well, what I have to say is specifically for you, and if you stay until the end, I'll give you a special invitation just for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to have some fun. I have a few things to show you, and my intention is to help you as best as I can. If we have time, I'll take questions at the end. Who's ready to get started? Somebody say, I am. This is going to be action-packed. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and in order for you to get the most out of what I'm going to show you today, you'll want to participate. Be here in the room with me. Is it okay with you if I share just a little bit of my story for those who haven't met me before? I got involved with M&A, mergers and acquisitions, in December 2020. My colleagues and I started looking for people that potentially wanted to sell their business and quickly realized that 90% of them were not properly prepared to sell their business. Most of my colleagues were throwing these leads away. They only wanted to talk to people that were prepared to sell their business immediately. I didn't think that was the right thing to do. These people needed help. That's when I decided to earn my CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor designation with the Exit Planning Institute. I did this because if I planned to buy someone's business, I needed to know how to help them make that happen. And today, I want to share with you the 4 simple steps to help you walk away wealthy from your business. How many of you want to walk away wealthy? Raise your hand if that's you. First, I want to tell you a quick story, and then we'll dive into the details on the 4 steps. A friend of mine sent me a deal a little while ago, and on the surface, it looked interesting. The business is doing about $900,000 in revenue and about $500,000 in profits. The business has been around since the 1980s. There are 5 employees, which includes the 2 owners, and they are asking for a 3x multiple of profits, which puts their asking price for the business at about $1.5 million. Remember I said it's $500,000 in profits? Businesses are valued on the multiple of profits, so a 3x multiple of that 500K gives us that $1.5 million asking price. Going back to this, the business can be run remotely and has high-end clientele. On the surface, this seems like a great business. How many of you would love to own a business that spits out 500K or more in profits every year? Raise your hand or wave at me if that's you. The problem is, if you and your spouse own this business and decided to walk away, there would only be 3 employees left. Plus, when you 2 walk away, chances are the customers and employees might leave with you. If I was going to buy your business, this is a huge risk and a big red flag. Because if I give you $1.5 million for your business, and the minute you walk out the door, your employees and your customers decide they don't want me to be the new boss, then I didn't really buy a business, I bought an empty shell. These types of businesses are up for sale all over the world, but most of them won't sell because the business is totally dependent upon the owner. Without proper guidance, this business could be listed with a typical business broker for years and still not sell. I don't want that to happen to you. The owners of this business are in their 60s and want to move on, but nobody is providing them the proper guidance to make that happen. Here's the honest truth. If your business doesn't run without you, you don't have a business, you have a job, which leads me to the absolute most important part of everything we're doing here today. If you don't remember anything else I say today, remember this. The business must run without you. Repeat after me. My business must run without me. And that brings me to the very first step of the 4 simple steps to walk away wealthy from your business. Standard operating procedures. In order to make your business truly transferable, the very first thing you need to have in place is a set of written instructions that describes everything that needs to be done in a step-by-step process. For example, if you run a cleaning business, you'll have standard operating procedures for how to clean bathrooms, which will include the products and tools used. Let's say you use Clorox spray cleaner for bathtubs and Lysol for toilets, and you use a scrubbing sponge for the bathtub, but a scrubbing brush for the toilet. All that stuff has to be documented so you can get the same result regardless of which employee is doing the job. Think about McDonald's. Their systems are so well documented that teenagers can run the business and the results are the same every single time. Well, maybe not every time because the ice cream machine is always broken, but you get the point. When you have written procedures and your employees execute them flawlessly, you have a sense of predictability in the results you achieve for your customers. Plus, the person that buys your business will want to see that you have this in place because it provides them with a sense of predictability as well. If you have all the systems in your head and don't have anyone that can serve the customers the way that you can, then your business is typically not worth very much. Let's do a quick exercise here. How many of you, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can raise your hand, know for a fact that you have all your SOPs in place and can send them to me right this minute if I asked you to? 1 is you don't even have SOPs documented at all because it's all in your head. And 10 is you could tap a few buttons on your phone and send them to me right now if I asked you to. Shout out some numbers to me. Okay, we got some 3s, we got some 5s, we got some 8s. I've got a 10 over here. That's good. Here's another question. Based on whatever number you just came up with, could someone else run your business? Yes or no? Here's another question. Could you take a 2-week vacation without answering emails, text messages, or phone calls and still have a business when you get back? Yes or no? So with the questions I've just given you and the answers you've just given me, do you have a business or do you have a job? Don't worry, I've got a cheat sheet. I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm going to give you my simple SOP template. All you have to do is hand it to your employees to fill out. I'll tell you how to get your hands on that cheat sheet here at the end. Now, let's talk about the second step of the 4 simple steps to walk away wealthy from your business. Succession planning. A succession plan is identifying the person who can run the business when you are no longer there. Most business buyers don't want to run your business on a day-to-day basis. Remember how we just talked about your 2-week vacation without having to answer emails, text messages, or phone calls? The best way to make that happen is to have well-documented SOPs and have someone that is capable of running the business while you are away. This person should be someone on your team that exhibits great leadership qualities and has a full understanding of what it takes to run daily operations. How many of you have a capable leader on your team that you can trust to run things while you are away? This is the person that you should be grooming to be your general manager and natural successor when you walk away from the business. The other part of succession planning is making sure you know what your after business life looks like. If you don't have this in place, it's going to be very difficult to walk away from your business. Let me tell you about Dolores and Grace. Dolores was 62 years old and had been running her veterinary practice for 35 years. Her daughter, Grace, was 29 years old and had been working in the business since she was 17. Grace knew the business inside and out and was the natural successor. Dolores accepted an offer for a third party, meaning someone outside the business, to acquire her practice for 7 figures, but when she went to her attorney's office to sign the papers on a Thursday morning, she was sobbing uncontrollably. Her attorney thought that these were tears of joy, but instead, they were tears of sadness. Dolores suddenly realized that she didn't want to go through with the sale of her practice because she felt like she was losing a part of herself. Plus, she didn't know what to do with all that money. Dolores backed out of the deal and decided to keep her practice. That didn't sit too well with Grace because Grace was looking forward to continuing the legacy of the family business and being the primary leader of the practice. This all happened 2 weeks before the Thanksgiving holiday. Grace almost didn't attend Thanksgiving dinner because of how angry she was with Dolores, but her husband talked her into going. Normally, there was lots of laughter and sharing during Thanksgiving, but because of what happened with the business, things were a lot different. Dolores was feeling guilty, and Grace was beside herself with both anger and sadness. At the end of dinner, Grace stood up and announced that she was resigning from the veterinary practice. She removed an envelope from her purse and left it on the table as she walked away. Dolores sat quietly for a moment and then reached for the envelope. Grace had delivered her formal resignation in writing to her mother on Thanksgiving Day. This decision sent shockwaves through the family and the veterinary practice. News of Grace's departure spread fast, and a few key employees decided to hand in their resignations as well. The practice suffered tremendously, and within a few months was flirting with bankruptcy. Dolores called the people that wanted to buy the business and was hoping she could still get the same amount of money that they offered just a few months ago. Unfortunately, the business was not worth what it once was. The offer from the third party went from $3.5 million down to $925,000. Dolores accepted the offer and decided to get out while she could. Dolores and Grace didn't speak again until several years later when Dolores' health was fading. Luckily, they patched things up while Dolores was in the hospital. This scenario happens more often than it should. With just a little planning and some well thought out conversations, this can all be avoided. How many of you want to avoid the pain and anguish that Dolores and Grace went through? The best way to make that happen is to create a compelling vision for your retirement and start taking 1 or 2 weeks off per month to start rehearsing your retirement before you sign the papers to make it a reality. Don't be like Dolores and Grace. Talk to the right advisors. Make a plan and stick to it. Let's move on to step 3 of the 4 simple steps to walk away wealthy from your business. Business finances. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that your business finances are put together properly? If someone is going to buy your business, you must have your business finances in order. You will need profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, business tax returns, and business bank statements. A prospective buyer will want this information year to date and the past 3 years. Don't log into QuickBooks and pull this data yourself. Go to your CPA and have them review, or better yet, audit your financials. How many of you have a CPA that can review or audit your financials? I can't stress this enough. When you start thinking about selling your business, hire an accountant to provide audited financial statements. This allows potential investors to assess the true value of your business. If you don't have historical financial statements or are not comfortable sharing them, you are not truly ready to sell your business. Let me tell you a quick story about Mark. Mark reached out and wanted to sell his business. He sent me his financials, and when I opened them up, I quickly realized that there was no data for the past 2 years. I went back to him and asked for up-to-date information so that I can provide a reasonable estimate of what the business was worth. He admitted that he hadn't filed business tax returns in the past 2 years and was having some personal problems that caused him to pull cash out of the business. I told him that I wouldn't be able to help him without updated information. He understood that and said that he would get back to me. A few months later, I found out that he was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, which is why he was pulling money out of the business. Unfortunately, he had to shut down the business, fire his employees, and walk away with nothing. What's so sad about this is that Mark had an opportunity to sell his business 5 years ago, and the offer was $12 million. He decided that he wanted to keep running the business, even though he was already 61 at the time. If he had sold his business 5 years ago, he could have saved his legacy and been able to sustain the financial hit that he had to take when cancer came knocking. Here's the final step of the 4 simple steps to walk away wealthy from your business: finding the right buyer. Did you know that 89% of businesses listed for sale don't sell? That means that only 11% of businesses that are available for sale complete a successful transaction. If you go to all the trouble of putting your business up for sale, you would want to complete a successful transaction. Am I right? Before I tell you about the 4 types of business buyers, let's first talk about why so many businesses don't sell. Number 1, unrealistic expectations and valuations. Sometimes a business owner will expect to sell their business based on what they think it's worth. If you think your business is worth $10 million, but your annual profits are only $100,000, your business won't sell. Number 2, business is owner dependent. Remember when we talked about this earlier? If your business is dependent upon you, you don't have a business, you have a job. Most investors that are looking to acquire a business are not looking to run daily operations themselves. Some will, but a majority won't. Make sure you have a team in place. Number 3, bad news. Pending litigation, enormous debt, downward trends in the industry, or the financial records. If your business has a lawsuit pending, you won't sell it on favorable terms. If your business has debts that cannot be paid from existing cash flow, you won't sell it on favorable terms. If your industry is being phased out by technology that has suffered catastrophic losses for the past 3 years running, you won't sell on favorable terms. Here's the good news. If you are willing to be both flexible and realistic when it comes to selling your business, it's very likely that you will walk away wealthy. Who wants to walk away wealthy? Great. Let's take a look at the 4 types of buyers that can help you do it. Number 1, you have internal buyers, which means that your employees, managers, or family members can buy the business. By a show of hands, how many of you want to leave your business to your family, employees, or managers? Number 2, you have competitors that own a similar business to yours. They might pay more than internal buyers, but your business, as you know it, won't exist anymore. How many of you are comfortable with a competitor coming in and potentially firing your employees? Number 3, you have big firms that pay much more than everyone else. They have strict criteria, are not very flexible, and will run right over you if you let them. Are you okay with getting a really big paycheck and throwing your baby out with the bathwater? Number 4, entrepreneurs are willing to help you maintain your legacy, be a safe pair of hands, and help you get a paycheck every month for the next 10 years without you having to show up for work. How many of you want to get a check every month for the next 10 years without having to show up for work? Seems like a toss-up between family and entrepreneurs. Let's take that vote one more time. How many of you want to sell your business to family or employees? Okay. How many of you want to get a check every month for the next 10 years without having to show up for work? I have some good news for you. The people I work with are acquisition entrepreneurs and employee purchase specialists. We can help you do both. Okay, here's what I'd like to do now. How many of you enjoyed our time together today? Did you learn anything? What was your favorite part? Remember that simple SOP template I promised? You can get that by going to simplesoptemplate.com. By the way, I have something that I'd like to share with you. It might not be for everyone, but for some of you, it will be the most logical next step. I have a virtual workshop coming up soon that I'd like to invite you to. If you head over to walkawaywealthyworkshop.com, you can get registered for that, and I'll see you there. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
To get the replay of all of our speakers, as well as access to the workshops, go to theprofitsconference.com. The Profits Conference.